Good morning, everybody. This is Mandi, the zonal lead for Delhi NCR NHRD chapter. I welcome all of you today to this webinar. Before I start today's discussion, I want to share a little experience with you, which is about myself in today's context. It's a very different experience from what all of us are going through. All that we are learning and unlearning today. And my experience is, how do I learn to smile, especially like this? When I have my face covered and only my eyes visible, how do I communicate to the person that I'm smiling? And this is very important because all of us, when we are at work or outside, are always like this. But the smile is also very important in today's time to create positivity, to exchange positivity, to give positivity, because all of us are going through crucial times, some more tough, some little tough, some scared of what's happening to us currently or in the future. So I have learned how I smile despite 80% of my mask, my face covered with mask. I hope you've also figured out, because do exchange that smile irrespective of the size of the mask or the situation you are. And when I talk of smiles, I want to introduce a smiling face who's always got a smile on his face and is cheerful, come what may. Mr. Prem Singh, the president for Delhi NCR NHRD chapter, who's been really a big contributor in us holding this webinar today. So I request Mr. Prem Singh to say a few words as we kick off the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mandeep, and thanks to all my colleagues who have joined on this webinar, all the panelists. Is everyone visible on the screen? Just a quick check.
Yes.
I think everyone is not visible on the screen. I hope
Mr. Raj Gupta has switched off his video for a while.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone else is visible on the screen?
Yes.
I can't see anyone, by the way. So Bhagat, if you can quickly check and confirm.
All are visible.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay, so once again, a very good morning to you, to all of you, and a very warm welcome to this webinar. And before we really start, I think it's time for all of us to remember the legendary, the visionary Dr. Pritam Singh, who left us 3 days back. And as a mark of respect for him, I would request all of us to observe a half a minute silence in his honor. Thank you very much. So I'm sure Dr. Pritam Singh would be very happy that we are in the pursuit of the dreams that he set out for all of us, also for the institutions that he has built. He always believed in the pursuit of excellence, and the fact that we are in the pursuit of excellence through learning and sharing. I'm sure he must be watching and he must be feeling very happy and very satisfied. Coming to this seminar, to this web-based learning and sharing session, very clearly we are living through very unprecedented times. In fact, something that we have never seen before. And it is not a health shock alone. It is a pandemic for sure, But this is not only a health shock. This has brought out also economic shock. It also has brought out a social shock. It also has brought out a demand generation shock. It also has brought out a supply chain shock. It also has brought out a migrant workers shock. And guess what? It's a big manpower shock to the industries. It's very contradictory that the times that we are currently living through, when the workers should have been at home, they were on the roads. And when they must have been back in the factories and the plants, right now, they are at homes. What a contradictory time that we have to manage. I would just like to share an example from a colleague of mine who has a large group that he manages, and he has factories all over the place, and he has a couple of factories in Rajasthan. And with the help of the government, they got a permission against a manpower of 2,000 in the plant. They got a permission to start the plant with 700 workers. And guess what? When they went around looking for all those workers that used to be working with them, they could get only 150. Friends, it's a big dichotomy that we are living through, and I'm sure it's going to continue for a while. Therefore, it's not a health shock alone. Unfortunately, we as a nation wanted to flatten the pandemic curve, but while the pandemic curve has continued to grow exponentially, unfortunately, we have got into a situation where the economic curve has been flattened deeply, not only flattened, actually moved down significantly. And as we close this financial year, there are indications that we might be clocking a minus 1% degrowth of GDP as a country. Therefore, we can imagine the kind of challenges it brings all of us. During this time, as we open up, one of the most critical things as I foresee that we have to manage is confidence building among the employees. In fact, the example that I shared with you, why the workers are not around, because they are very, very seriously scared. Scared for their safety, scared for their families, scared for their co-workers, their friends. And one of the immediate challenge for all of us as HR leadership is, how do you instill confidence in the minds of employees that this is something that we have to learn to live with? Like we are living with all other kinds of viruses. This is also one another virus. And good news is, in India, the mortality rate is just below 3%. Therefore, as HR leadership, my question to the panelists and to all of us is, what can we do to bring about that sense of confidence in the minds of people to say that, hey, guys, look, it is okay. As long as you take precautions, as long as you are careful, you will be fine. So that's an immediate challenge that I foresee. Number two, as we are currently going through the current scenario, I'm sure there will be a lot of pressures from the cost control, on reorganization, on reskilling, and redeployment of people. I think we have to also do a very fine balancing act of caregiver at one hand, being like a mother to all the employees, at the same time taking some tough calls in order to ensure that the business at large remains viable. And I'm sure we are all aware that these are the challenging times where a lot of tough decisions will need to be made. How do you make sure in the drive to make sure that you are a lean organization, you do not lose out on your key talent and you are able to preserve your top competencies in the organization? As they say, when you start cutting down the fat, you never know when you have actually started cutting down the bones of the body. And my submission to the panelists and to all of us will be, we should be watchful of that. Many a times there are also discussions about work from home, and there is a lot of discussion going around that work from home is a reality of life and this is going to stay. Well, here is my 2 cents. We should be careful in celebrating it too early. I think we all know, and this is based on my own experience. Out of 10 CHROs that I talk to, at least 7 or 8 of them would tell me 2, 3 things. Number one, that look, the the boundaries between working hours and non-working hours has completely gone. Number two, the work-life balance has completely disappeared. And therefore, it is also bringing its own kind of challenges managing work at home when you have small families, when you have parents, children, and when you have a limited space to deal with this all various kinds of variables in the situation. So my submission is, let's take it with a pinch of salt, let's debate, and then we come to a conclusion. There would be a lot of new things that we need to bring in, and here I would like to talk about 2 things. In our lives, we can do 2 things. Number one, we can change the rules of the game, but the current situation, it is so grave, many a times it would require all of us that whenever we have ceased to change the rules of the game, we change the game itself. So my invitation is, can we think of those kind of innovations, those kind of out of the box ideas in terms of engaging our people who are many of them operating from home, so that we are able to productively, positively able to utilize their intellectual prowess. We are able to productively engage them in some out of the box ideas to create newer business models, newer demands, newer supply chain processes, or newer methods of skilling and reskilling, because you know more than I do that unlearning and relearning process is going to be very, very critical at this point in time. Finally, I would also like to say, in terms of competencies, also, I think we need to relook into the way we define the competencies. I think moving forward, competencies like dealing with the ambiguity, competencies like inspirational leadership, competencies like humility, competencies like inspiring confidence in your people are going to become very critical. And therefore, my submission would be the panel should debate on all of these as to what we need to do with respect to this landscape also. Finally, I do not like to paint a very gloomy picture. There is always the end of the tunnel. And I want to remind all of us of a very famous quote by Henry David Thoreau, who said, "What lies behind you and what lies ahead of you are very tiny matters compared to what lies inside of you." So with this, my friends, thank you very much. I appreciate connecting with all of you this morning, and I look forward to a very, very engaging discussion. All the best. God bless all of us. Over to you, Mandi.
Thank you, sir. Very insightful thoughts that you've shared. The reality today, what we've done in the past since March, and what we are doing today will always impact what we are going to face tomorrow. Absolutely. Really appreciate your insights and the positive stroke at the end. So thank you for your insights. Words that we have become exposed to, which we never knew, or heard in our lifetimes earlier. Words like global pandemic, community spread, self-quarantine, flattening the curve, PPE, these are all new terminologies. And another terminology which became very critical to all of us since March was lockdown. Different modes of lockdown. Lockdown started, lockdown extended, and now lockdown getting over. And this is what we are discussing today, as Mr. Prem Singh mentioned. We've got to look at different perspectives, different strategies on how to address the challenges which were there and the challenges that we have created as we move forward. I'm glad to share I have with me very senior HR leaders representing a diverse set of industries today to give their insights. Mr. Musarrat Hussain, who's an HR leader with Maruti Suzuki India, representing the automobile sector of the manufacturing. Then we have Mr. Raj Gupta from TCS, HR leader from TCS, who's representing technology services. Dr. Niravmandir, who's logged in from Surat, the HR leader with Shri Ramakrishna Exports, who's come from a very niche segment of the diamond industry, sharing his perspective, and Mr. Shriniwas Rao, HR leader with Pullman and Novotel, who's representing another industry which has been really impacted, the hospitality industry. So I start with you, Musarrat. From your perspective, as we look at what's next, what do you think has been, as we stand today, the impact of all that we did, and specifically if we look at it from a sector perspective, what do you think it is looking in the current context, please? And before I pass the mic on to Musarrat, I also want to share with all the participants who've logged in, let's make it an interactive session. If you have any questions, please address them in the chat box, and we will ensure that the panelists also get to address those. Over to you, Musarrat. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mandeep. Thank you, Prem Singh. See, basically, when you look at
everyone, and I just need to log out, so just so you are aware. Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Doc.
coming back to the subject, basically, if I look at various segments, manufacturing and typically auto industry per se was already bleeding since the last financial. The industry was down by almost 18%, and this was the worst in the last 20 years. And of course, auto industry is very typical of the manufacturing, where we had a lot of issues already, growing up. Things like, leapfrogging from BS4 to BS6, and so on and so forth. The demand has actually come down, and not only in the passenger car segment, but the commercial vehicle was also at the lowest in the last financial, and the coupled with the GST norms, and then a couple of other emission norms, and so on and so forth. There were many things which was actually dragging down the auto industry. Now this pandemic became a double whammy for the auto industry, where, as you all know, that April was the first time that there was a zero sale, zero production, and the auto industry looks to be in a bad shape. And what the experts say, that perhaps two-wheeler may pick up a little bit in the next 6 months, but as far as commercial and passenger car segment are concerned, this may take a while to actually pick up. So there is huge pressure, huge pressure, especially auto sector, which, as you all know, contributes almost 27% to the industrial GDP, and has given job to almost 37 million people. Now that is at stake. The entire ecosystem, the entire value chain of automotive is totally disrupted, and slowly now it's picking up. Slowly it's opening up, but the demands are low. Productions are hardly 10 to 15% of the capacities. The dealerships are seeing less footfall, and so is the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 auto component industries, where they are bleeding under the shortage of work labor also in tier 2 and tier 3 companies. There is a huge cash deficit which these companies are seeing. So overall, for automotive industry, things are not very good at the moment, and we hope that some kind of policy decision by the government should be taken in the near future to boost the demand. And but we are very hopeful that with social distancing becoming a key thing in times to come, as we are seeing in China, the sale of small cars or second-hand cars or perhaps two-wheeler, we presume and hope that they may pick up. But overall in manufacturing, if we talk about couple of sectors in manufacturing which we hope that they are not under that much of pressure, like drugs and pharma, and perhaps sectors like logistics supply chain is slowly picking up. And couple of sectors, of course, our panelists will talk about, are under deep pressure, but still there are certain sectors which in the near future are likely to pick up, like technology companies are going to pick up very fast, e-commerce will pick up very fast. So we have a mixed bag. In fact, we have some companies which will take a while to recover, some companies which may actually recover in the short term or mid term. So that's my take.
Sure, Musarra, thank you. A mixed bag, yes, a mixed bag of so many things we tried to do, we are still trying to do. Thank you for your insights. And Srini, with that, I move to you, please. Uh, Hospitality has gone through different impacts. What, in your perspective, is what you're going through currently, and how are you going to get over it from an industry perspective, please?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mandeep, and thanks to Prem and NHRD Network having me here. And as you rightly said, that hospitality industry is impacted very, very badly in this for the last 3 months completely. So globally, almost 75% to 80% of the hotels already closed, branded hotels, and the rest of the 15% to 20% of the hotels running with single-digit number occupancy are converted as a quarantine center, which is supported or directed by the government. So in the current scenario, almost 6 crore jobs are at the edge of the risk completely from the hospitality sector. Overall, if we look at the luxury segment is impacted very badly compared to the economy segment and the mid-scale segment of the hotels. Even cash flow is becoming a major concern from the either all the stakeholders point of view, either from owning companies, either from owners, even from the partners and others. And because of that, Q1 we are able to, even entire industry able to pay the complete salary. Q1, that is till March. However, almost 70% of the hotels Q2, that is from April, May, June, opted to pay the salary by pay cut. I think more or less, I think a lower level, entry level staff, there is no pay cut happened. However, the mid-level management and above level across the industry, there is a pay cut starting from 40% to 20%, 30%, like that, different, based on their cash flows. And apart from that, actually, the F&B business is a big impact with the industry, even MICE, because of the banquet operations, socials, even weddings, even the restaurants are impacted very badly. And even small scale restaurants, which is there in the outlets in the cities, is completely shut. Okay, and even due to the travel restrictions by the government notification because of the lockdown, there is no airlines. Naturally, when there is no air travel, hotel industry also completely zeroed and without any occupancy. And globally, I think RevPAR declined by close to 75% to 90% compared to the 2019 Q1 versus Q1 2020. I'm just repeating, 75% to 95% RevPAR declined Q1 19 versus Q1 20. And more impact is happened almost all the luxury segment and hotels as well as mid-scale segment hotels across the globe, even in India. So this is the more impact, especially so far. The post-lockdown, like of course the restrictions slowly they are already giving. Most probably, we are expecting some of the restrictions open from 8th June, that is exactly day before, the day after, that is on Monday onwards, and more or less across in India. Apart from that, even cities like Delhi, Mumbai, even Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, even Hyderabad, Chennai, are, since the high cases involved, I think we may see the lockdown continue till this month, and even hotel operation also will shut this month end. So once the post lockdown, if the government gives a permission to open the hotel, and India, China, and Indonesia, these three countries are the major scope to improve faster than any other countries like even Europe and American countries. The reason why these countries is 80 to 85% of the demand, hotel demand, is based on the domestic travel. Even our in India, 80 to 85% of our hotel demand based on the our domestic travel within India. So with the God grace, we are very optimistic at the moment by looking at the current scenario. And once we already got a green signal in terms of the domestic travel, and we are hearing even foreign travel also going to open soon, I think we are optimistic. More or less, I think the industry will start picking up. So, however, from the customer point of view, even a guest point of view, he's having a lot of questions in his mind. No, am I going to be safe to travel? Am I going to safe to stay in the hotel? Am I going to safe to dine in the restaurants as well? Because of that, almost all the hotels geared up to have a complete 100% SOP to take care of the guests, customers, even the MICE, weddings, and everything in line with the government notification. And due to that, apart from that, even we adapted even the technology. Now we are already working on complete even SOP training with the teams, as well as even we almost ordered almost all the industries when we are having a chat with other industry colleagues. They almost order the safety equipment technology where we can reduce the human intervention, where we can do the complete the technology based check-in process, checkout process, where the guest also can order even room service through the technology. So far the industry is like the personalized services, human touch is played a major role. But after this, I think human touch personalized services going off, and majorly low touch services going to play the major role in the coming days. Apart from that, hygiene and safety is the key and the priority for the entire hospitality sector. And almost all the HR heads in the hotels, even the L&D heads in the hotels, even the general managers, now started working for the last 3 months, creating more awareness on COVID SOPs through visual trainings, as well as the posters through WhatsApp, even the emails which we are sending. We are already connected, engaging with all the employees to create 100% awareness and safety precautions to all the team members. And this is
Srini, thank you for your insights.
Yeah.
What is amazing is when you've spoken about hospitality sector, you've shared so well on different segments of it, from a hotel or even a function perspective. So there are more questions that we have for you ahead. So please hold on to the other insights that you're going to share. Another perspective that I'm very keen to hear from.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Srini. Yeah. Another perspective I have here, and I'm very keen to hear from, is from Nirav. Nirav, you've logged in from Surat, and you're present a very niche segment of the manufacturing industries, the diamond industries. What has been the impact, and what is the impact now as we are moving into the phase where lockdown is getting over? Thank you for logging in from Surat, and request you to please share your insights.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mandeep. I think I'm the only odd one out from this who is not from Delhi and who joined from the west part of India. I'm joining from Surat. So again, I thank very much to the NHRD, and especially would like to compliment the NHRD by using the tool of GoToWebinar, especially after the post of Sonam Wangchuk, and it's like supporting the non-Chinese product. It's no offense to the Chinese people, but it's like till the time we have the Indian version of this kind of a meeting, it's a big compliment to NHRD and for using the non-Chinese product. As you rightly said, and like it's been really hard when the eminent speaker like Prem Singh Musharraf and Srinath shared their perspective on the various industries, because like they generally share all the things, and but I would like to here focus upon the James and Jewelry scenario. And for those who are not so familiar with the James and Jewelry industry, would like to share some data. So out of the total exports of India in 2019, which was $322 billion, 36 billion US dollar being shared by the James and Jewelry sector alone, which is second highest after the minerals and the oil exports from India. And we are talking about the James and Jewelry industry. Many of the person might not be knowing that if you see 10 diamonds in the world, 90% of the diamond cuts in Surat, which is like the part of Western India. Out of the 90% diamonds which is being polished in India, if you see any diamond about 2 carats, across the world, 6 diamond passes through SRK. So that is about the quantum of the industry and the quantum of the company from where I am representing myself as a part of the game. Especially in the export scenario, because the COVID has, due to this COVID scenario, which was pretty much kind of a catastrophe to the entire world, and James and Jewelry industry is not exempted from that. As Mushat was briefing about the slowdown in the automobile sector since more than 1.5 years, it's not so eminent in the James and Jewelry industry, especially to the last 2 months, because if I compare the last year data till February 20, there is a decline of 7% on the exports, especially in the James and Jewelry, because it's a niche and the luxury segment. But it's not the first time when we are facing the turbulence due. If I won't go into details and won't go much into the history, only if I may conclude the history of last 20 years. So we have faced many of the turbulences, many of the kind of unprecedented or the catastrophes so far, starting from the challenge of Y2K when the year 1999 was supposed to end up. So Y2K was a big buzz in the industry. We have also faced the global recession of 2008. We also faced the demonetization in India in 2016. The Trump became the president of US and Mr. Modi became the prime minister of India. That might be a challenge for the opposition parties. So it's not the new thing for all of us to face this type of turbulences. But if I may submit that lockdown has taught us many things, and the first and foremost and the most vital thing which according to me which it has taught us is the sense of uniformity. Why I say it so? Because sense of uniformity is like starting from the Jeff Bezos, who is world's richest man, and the common men like us, all are living in the same manner. All are locked down in the home. They are living a simple livelihood with the minimum essentials, and we learned how to live life, a good life with the minimum essentials. So it simply means that whatever we have lived with so far, it's kind of, we have enjoyed the sheer luxury, and in our, just if I may conclude, I'm not considering the time before March. I think it has taught us very vital and a critical thing in the entire time of 2 months. If I may share one of the story, like which is pretty much prompt to the current scenario, when it happened that the god of death went to a village, and though the village was locked down, the chief of the village stopped the god of death and asked him, why do you want to come into the village? It's completely locked down governed by the government. So the god of death said, like, 5 of your men got infected due to this coronavirus, and I'm just here to take their souls out. So and then god of death, like, they can't do much because it's like kind of a destiny, and he allowed that god of death to enter into the village. While he was returning down, he noticed that there was a 10 that happened in the village. So the chief of the village happened to ask the god of that you are committed that you are only taking the 5 souls back from the village, and now 10 deaths have happened in the village. So why you were not met up to your commitment? So God of that very wisely replied that I made up with my commitment. I stood by my commitment. I only took 5 souls out of me. The rest of the 5% died due to panic. So this is the situation in which we are as of now, that it's kind of a panic mode. And like in LNOD, we have been taught regarding the 70, 20, and 10 principles. But here in the crisis principle, I may coin the word as the 10, 80, and 10 principle. If I may elaborate this 10, 80, and 10 principle, which simply says due to this lockdown and this kind of a catastrophe which has happened to the global scenario, 10% of people are sheer in panic. They are completely in panic. They don't know what to do. They are kind of in the verge of getting depressed, and those 10% are feeling in like sheer pain. The rest of the 80% people are there in the stun mode. Stun mode, when I'm saying, is like they don't know what to do. They don't know which way to go. They don't know what has happened. They're still figuring out that what should be done and how the things should be moving. And rest 10% of people, which are can be rated as a kindly a creative people. They are the people who also finds the opportunities in this type of crisis, who believes that we must not waste a good crisis, and they are in that zone. So I think these are the kind of a crisis principle is like being